I want to introduce our next speaker, Iulia, here. She will talk about soft skills. Thank you very much, and give her a huge shout out, please.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. To start off with, I thought this is a very controversial topic at a tech conference. That's why I took extra measure. I'm wearing black in case you're carrying tomatoes with you. Please don't throw them my way. I swear this is going to be interesting. Why soft skills matter? And indeed, these skills are anything but fluffy, because so far I think that have been taken as nice to have, as optional, but it's really not what these skills are about, because they are crucial, they are essential in any job, in any asset, and nowadays more and more in software development as well. And they are not opposite to hard skills. It's not like if I have hard skills, I don't need soft skills. It doesn't work like that. They are complementary. So you have hard skills, you have technical skills, that makes you a great developer. You have soft skills, makes you an excellent one, an extraordinary one. And who am I? I am Iulia Costea. I'm a joy lover, life fan. I'm a Romanian gone global. And as I've mentioned earlier today, I've been in recruitment for 6 years now, and the last 2 of them have been in tech. The first 2 were in the Philippines. I've been working in an HR agency recruiting Filipinos. Then I switched to senior leadership recruitment in Brussels, working for an American company. And then I've been referred into this tech recruiter role in a Berlin-based startup called Talent.io. And before taking the job, I was skeptical. I said, oh my gosh, these are developers I'm going to talk to. I don't know if I can do this. It's just too much. These people are just the gods. And it took me some time to get used to it. Before joining the job, I took 3 months to immerse myself into tech, reading all of these books written by developers, looking into blogs, articles, everything that I could find on the web to try to understand the world of tech and what this is all about. And I said, maybe there's something I can give in return to developers, that I can also have something to teach them, right? And that proved to be more and more about soft skills, about emotional intelligence. So yeah, I took the role, and now almost 2 years later, after having spoken with hundreds of developers, I think I've learned a thing or two. I've created some patterns of what works and what doesn't work. And I would say about 45% of the people that go through recruitment processes, they don't get the job, not because they are not strong technically, but because they don't fit in a certain way. Personality, team fit, cultural fit, all of those, which is quite sad. And that means that, okay, when a person is strong technically, what's there to do to stand out even more? So here I am sharing these things with you today. And this is the first thing that I know about all of you. I want you to take a look at this slide and to let me know with a show of hand whether you identify with this. I'm going to explain what it is afterwards. One hand. Okay. Some more. Great. 55% of the job opportunities that come your way are noise. All of those annoying recruiters I know, I'm trying not to be one of them, who are proposing PHP roles to a Ruby developer or whatever, C# to a Java guy. That's all noise. People that don't read your profile, things that don't match. We all know that's annoying, but it still happens. So all of those annoying LinkedIn messages or emails that you receive. And then we have the jobs that are pretty much a big percentage as well, which means that there are those kind of jobs that you're not really particularly keen on changing into because it's probably what you're doing at the moment, or it's not really worth you changing. But then, my friends, we have that little 5% of yes jobs. The ones that we really want, but might prove to still be hard to get, because there are those exciting company, amazing job opportunities that probably everyone wants, and it's still, in a way, hard to get. And how do we get to those? And I'm not talking necessarily about the Facebook of this world, the Google, the Amazon, probably smaller companies that have a purpose, NGOs, those companies that have a positive impact on the world. And, there are still companies and job opportunities out there that are still worthy. And even if you're bombarded with job offers, I'm sure you're still looking at the very attractive ones. And before I continue into my presentation, I'll be very curious to hear from you, and I want you all to take 30 to 60 minutes, seconds, to think about your top 3 criteria that would make a job great. Because after all, how do we define a great job? What's a great job? Right? So I think we all have different definitions of that. So take a moment and come up with our top 3. And then I want to hear some of those who want to speak up. Anyone would like to let me know? Simplicity and principle. Okay, great. And then the team you work with. Anyone else wants to share his or her? Good coffee. Great. Family friendliness. Anything else? Compensation. Okay. Technology is used. Compensation. Great. Interesting challenges, trust. Perfect. Thank you. So I think I've got a great mix here. So obviously also things are related to the actual job, more of hard skills, but also some of the other non-tangible or more difficult to measure aspects like trust, the team you work with, and so on. Therefore, what I'm going to share with you further, it's going to be all about emotional intelligence, which is, again, not necessarily the opposite of IQ, but it's a complementary thing that we all need to master ideally. And who of you heard of Daniel Goleman? Not that many, okay. It's a internationally known psychologist. He has written lots of books about emotional intelligence in general. He also has a certification course out there on emotional intelligence, and he's been reporting on the brain and human behavior for many, many years for New York Times. And he's come up with this brilliant framework of what emotional intelligence is all about. And there are 4 main categories. So we have the self-awareness, which is the very first step that we need to take towards becoming more immersed into emotional intelligence overall. That means that we first need to know ourselves, how we behave, what are our feelings, our emotions, to identify those, to be self-reflective, and to analyze our behavior, first of all, to get to know ourselves. Then once we've got that covered, we move on to self-management. And it's extremely important as well, because it doesn't help if you know yourself, but you don't know how to manage your emotions, your time, or yourself. So you might know that you're good at this or you're bad at that, but again, you don't know how to fix it or how to improve that or how to make it even better. So that's also a lot of emotional self-control, adaptability, positive outlook, and achievement orientation. Once that is done, we can move on to social awareness. That means, okay, I know myself, I know how to behave and how to control my emotions, but it's also equally important to understand other people around me. What do other people want? What's important for other people? So for us to start being receptive about what's going on around us. And then we have the empathy, organizational awareness. And further on, the last and the highest step in emotional intelligence would be relationship management. So not only understanding other people and the people around us, but being able to guide them, to coach them, to mentor, and to influence the people around us in a positive way, of course. And that we have also conflict management, inspirational leadership, teamwork, and so on. And I guess that's a lot to digest, but I just want to focus on 4 main areas out of all of these that I notice they have an extremely high importance throughout recruitment processes once the person gets placed and is looking for promotions or to be better seen in his current job or her current job. And also people that want to get promotions, they want to stand out in their careers, in their jobs, and also leaders looking to hire. So these are all traits that come about again and again and again. And those 4, in my opinion, would be adaptability, empathy, teamwork, and inspirational leadership. And I'm going to talk a little bit in more detail about each and every one of them, and starting with adaptability. Now, we all know those people that are extremely stubborn about doing stuff, and they're very passionate, and they want to do things. That's amazing. But at some point, we have to understand that it doesn't always work our way, and we have to be able to stop in the middle of an implementation because things went wrong, to start from scratch without being frustrated or annoyed. And also, 2 + 2 = 4. I'm not sure. Software development should be the case. But you might know better than anyone that it's not only a science, but it's also an art. So we have to be adaptable and flexible, and to understand that our ways are not always the right ways. And we have to be very agile. That's why waterfall is pretty much dying, because everyone is agile nowadays. So people started to be more adaptable, which is extremely important. Otherwise, we just end up being frustrated. And indeed, it's really good to be stubborn about your goal, not to give up, but at the same time to remain flexible on the ways of getting there. And again, that's always a fine line. Adaptability doesn't mean that you get into a company being promised that you're going to take care of a migration from jQuery to React.js, and then once you join, they tell you, well, that dropped, it's not going to happen anymore. Just going to keep jQuery for now. And you're going to be like, oh, I should be adaptable. Okay, I'm good with that. No, there's not adaptability. There might be suicide. So it's, again, adapt yourself, but also in your favor, not in your detriment. So if you adapt to something, make sure it's a challenge that will push you forward, and you're not compromising on yourself. So that's about adaptability. The next one, empathy. In this very customer centricity-driven world, being empathetic as a business, as an engineer, it's what makes or breaks a deal. Because up until probably very recent, the only people that were meant to be empathic were the UX researchers, the UX designers that were very close to to the user. However, the engineers, the developers that can bring this empathy on the table can always have a step ahead. Because now, as an engineer, you don't only sit at your desk coding, but you have to understand the business, you have to understand your team, you need to understand the users, the marketing people, everyone that bombards you with information. So obviously it's very important to place yourself in the shoes of others, in the shoes of your users, because that's gold to your work, if you understand the user. And obviously it's important to be empathetic towards your users, but also towards your team, to the people around you, to understand more and more where other people come from, because we're all different, and sometimes it's very difficult to understand someone from your perspective if you don't wear their shoes. So we should try as much as possible to place ourselves in other people's shoes to understand their situation and their angles. So empathy is really important, and it's not hard to master. As soon as you have the awareness, getting there should be rather easy if you have the right motivation. And I guess teamwork is something that's probably already an overused word. Everyone knows, yes, we know that teamwork is extremely important, and teamwork is hard to, it's there, it has to be there. But how do we make sure that teamwork is actually efficient? Especially now that we live in this world where diversity is increasing, there are more and more teams working from all parts of the world, and if you don't sit in the same room with a person, you're missing on the visual cues. There's a lot of things happening online. How do you make sure that the team has the right environment? It's still very difficult, and obviously there are lots of ways out there on how to improve teamwork, and I'm really curious to know how many of you are 100% happy in their teams today. Okay, very good. Keep it that way. I would say around 20 people. And 90% of the projects that fail don't fail because of the lack of technical skills. The knowledge is always there, the expertise is there. Those projects fail because people don't communicate well. There's no alignment of expectations and various other factors that benefit to the fail of a project. And instead of focusing what works, let's focus on what doesn't work. So those are some red flags that we should always be mindful no matter what. And it sounds very easy at a first glimpse, but often these are the things that look obvious, that it's easy for us to forget about. And inattention to results while working in a team. Lots of people are very much focused on their results without putting that into context. How are my peers doing? What's the team goal? What are the results of everyone else and not only mine? So again, not being very individualistic, but thinking team and really thinking team, looking left and right as much as possible. Avoidance of accountability, that's crucial, because without accountability, nothing happens. So you need to make sure that what you're producing is quality 100% and you do your best. And just that expression, you throw it over the fence to the tester and just deal with it. Be accountable to what you're producing. And then lack of commitment. This is very easy to lose, because if someone does not identify themselves with a product anymore, with a company, with a vision, is not extremely happy in the team, it's so easy to lose commitment. And without commitment, nothing happens. And if you're not committed anymore, that will reflect on your team, going to create a whole snowball effect. And that's also extremely important, to be committed. And the moment the commitment is gone, make sure you address it. And if it's not fixable, you might as well change, because that's, in my opinion, is one of the most important aspects. Fear of conflict. I would say lots of people think that if they avoid conflict, things get solved. That's not true. And also, having emotional intelligence, being an empathetic, doesn't mean that you avoid conflict, you don't enter conflict, and you avoid it at all costs. Conflict can be healthy sometimes, because it creates friction, it creates new ideas, innovation, and only if you address certain topics, then you can improve on them and you brainstorm. But again, of course, in a very respectful way. It doesn't mean that conflict means shouting at each other. It means just bringing topics on a table on a very respectful manner. And then absence of trust. I think that goes without saying, that if you don't trust the people around you, if you don't trust your team, it's very difficult to be happy in your job. So teamwork is crucial. And also remember, your work, your results are important, but alone you run fast. With your team, you run far. So it's a matter of choice after all. And the last one after the big group, out of the big group, is probably my favorite one, inspirational leadership, because I've used my current company to look into this specific one. Talent.io, where I work, exists now for 4 years, and since it was founded, there was not even one developer who left the company. And in 4 years, that's massive. It's really massive. And I was wondering, what's the secret sauce in there? What is our CTO doing? Because this is absolutely crazy. For 4 years, one person left. It was an intern, worked there for 6 months, but came back 1 year later once he graduated. And now he's leading the whole redesign of the platform. He's a skipper for that, quite a massive role after less than 2 years. And I was wondering, what's the secret behind this? And I had a quick chat with my CTO, asked him, tell me your secret. So everyone asked me that, but there's no secret. But there's just one main part of his job that he's doing, besides those three. We'll get to those later. He's hiring for mindset. The very first developer that he brought on board is Ben, who's now leading the whole team of 15 developers. He was not even a Ruby developer. So Talent.io is built on Ruby on Rails, a Ruby platform, and he was a Python developer. Now I know that Ruby, Python are quite similar, so it's easy to switch. But as the first developer that you bring into your team, you might want to make sure that he has some Ruby experience, so you bring someone with the expertise. He said, for me, that was absolutely zero. It didn't matter. I was looking for mindset, not for the actual experience in Ruby on Rails. It's Python, I don't care. I need the mindset. Proved to be good, because the guy is still there leading successfully this team. And Ben, the lead developer, was the one that I've asked further on, what is Amit doing? Amit being the CTO. What are his secrets? Because he's just told me that it's his mindset is his secret, but I know there's more. And I've asked him to tell me the top 3 criteria that make Amit an inspirational leader. And he said he has vision and passion. And not only buzzwords. He has vision, that he has this power to communicate to all of us and to transmit his vision. And he was saying that the vision is absolutely contagious. So it's impossible to sit next to him and not to be inspired by his vision, by his passion. And it's very important as a developer, you need to be motivated, to have a vision to look at and to know that what you're building, your product, has an impact and it's powerful to the society overall, right? And then secondly, the listening skills, which in my opinion was really, really interesting, because it's so important to listen to people around us, and not just to listen for the sake of listening. active listening. And he said he is listening to what we're saying very patiently, and not only nodding, yes, I agree, but implementing what we are suggesting further on into the product. So we feel that when we are talking to him, he listens and he takes action. What we are saying, he implements that further. And you feel very much engaged. You feel that you are empowered because everything that you're saying is being taken seriously and implemented further on into the product. And the last one was, I've forced him to limit to 3 because I'm sure it could be more than this, but these are the main ones. Knowledge and accuracy in tech and non-tech topics. He said he's a pure encyclopedia. You can go into in-depth discussions with him on absolutely any topic. And I'm not sure if you observed, but 2.5 out of these 3 are non-tech related, right? So we have vision and passion. We have listening skills. Knowledge and accuracy in tech, but also not knowledge and accuracy in non-tech. So it's crucial. It's very important for a leader to be empathetic, to have emotional intelligence, to connect to people. And like this, you keep your people are passionate to work for you, and it's very easy to retain people. It proved right, because 4 years later, the whole team is still there. And they are still very much engaged to build further. Okay, and now these 4 areas, they can actually work again in all aspects. Whether you are looking for your first job or for a job in general, whether you are in your company and you want to step up, you want to show yourself, want to get a promotion, whether you are someone looking to hire people, these are all topics worth investigating further and minding. And now I know it's very easy to know what works, but how do we identify that, and how we also prove that we're good in that? Maybe you guys are good empathetics, you are great team players, but how do you prove that? Because oftentimes it's very difficult to show yourself, to build your personal brand, and to show people and the world who you are. Because you know deep inside, I'm good at this, I know how to do this, but it's very difficult to communicate it further. And for that, I've put my recruiter hat on, and I'm going to share with you a trick which will help you create stories and to put things into perspective. And this is called the STAR technique. Is anyone familiar with this? Perfect, 2 people. That's great. That means that there's something that I can teach you again here. Awesome. So this STAR technique means that past behavior predicts future behavior. So pretty much what you've done in the past, more or less, can dictate what you're going to do in the future. I don't always tend to agree with it because, of course, people change, but the essence remains. And this is, again, a technique that can be used when you're interviewing your developers for your team, but also when you're being interviewed, how to answer questions. And it's so important to tell stories. We've heard in several topics earlier today the power of telling a story, because oftentimes when I ask developers, tell me more about what you've done so far. Create a summary of your career. It's very difficult for them to know where they start, what to tell me about, they kind of stumble on that question. And it's very easy to simply create a story, right? And not dig directly into the details, but try to gain perspective, to bring the context onto the table, so then people are on the same page and know what you're talking about, and then slowly get into the bottom of the solution that you've created, technologies that you're using. So basically, it's the context, it's the situation. So you have to put people in the big picture, the big situation. You can start with when I was working building that product for those type of users. So you also give a little bit of business perspective, what type of users you had, what type of product was that about. And then you can describe the task, describing the purpose, what were you meant to do, what was your responsibility there. And then we can also think of an exact question. For example, think of a moment when you had to be a good team player. Just one of random example. This is the behavioral interviewing technique. Or think about an example when you had to deal with a conflict. Think about a situation in one of your jobs when you had to be empathetic, for example. Very general questions, but just for you to have an idea. And then you start with the context. Then you go ahead with the task, what you had to do, so then people are already following you better. and then the actual action to explain what you've actually done. And that's only the point when you start telling what were the actual tasks that you were doing. And very important, the result. So see, it's very easy. It has a flow. It creates a story. So it's any question can be answered with this framework. And regarding the result, it's about sharing the outcome. And again, it doesn't have to be always a positive outcome. Not at all. People love to hear bad outcomes. I mean, they love it, especially if you share the lessons learned. And this is a trick. Because it's so easy to always give the good examples. I've been doing this and that. I've been shining here and there. But often people forget about being humble and about sharing what they've learned when things didn't go well. Because oftentimes things do go wrong. As long as you don't repeat that mistake and you've learned your lesson, that's all it takes. And share the lessons learned. And remember, this is a tip. That's amazing if you can do that. And also, people looking for developers, CTOs or whatever, recruiting for their team, if people have the guts, the courage to admit when things went wrong and they took accountability, responsibility, and they shared the lesson learned, that's a big plus. You agree? I hope so. I'm not done. And before you start throwing your laptops at me, I just have a final tips, which I really hope this is not going to turn into a motivational speech, but it's really important. And again, it's the little things that we often forget about, and we need reminders. I'm sure you are aware of all of this, but let me remind you, they are very, very important. It's always about how you make people feel. Don't be afraid to make compliments, to say thank you more, to smile. Don't forget about these things. It's just crucial because it works like a boomerang. You throw your good vibes out there and they come back. And it's important. Show appreciation. We rise by lifting up others. This was my colleague Marisa who told me this a few days ago and said, this is a good idea, I have to implement it here. It's not all about us. We're social human beings. We work well in teams, surrounded by others. So let's make others feel better and let's show appreciation. Be grateful about the people we have around us, about the teams that we work with, because oftentimes we would be nowhere without our coaches, our mentors, without the people, more senior people that we work with that guide us where we need to go. Feedback is such an important topic. I think I can make a whole presentation only about feedback. Feedback is always a gift, but we have to be very careful because it's the very thing that can also break someone. So if you're not careful on how you deliver a message, that person can be just screwed because it's just one word that can direct someone in the wrong direction. So we have to praise people, we have to give constructive feedback, but also minding and being very careful that how you deliver the message is extremely important. So don't be afraid to share feedback, but do it in a very delicate way. And it's equally important on how you receive feedback. It's not, imagine that the person giving you the feedback, it's already very, very, very difficult for that person to share feedback, right? And you have to don't take it as granted, oh, gave me negative feedback, what an asshole. It's not like that. Because giving negative feedback is 10 times more difficult than giving positive feedback. So we also have to thank the people who give us feedback because through them we grow and we develop. I'm thankful forever to all the criticisms and all the bad feedback that I received, which is constructive, because through that I've grown. Because positive feedback, it's nice, it keeps you motivated. But through constructive feedback, it's when you actually grow and develop further. And it's being someone people love to work with. That's what it takes. So look at yourself. Are you someone that you yourself would like to work with? Are you a good team fit? Are you a team player? Do people like working with you? Because it's also very important. You create your network after this. People refer you into jobs, especially as developers. The communities can be quite closed, very united, and if you screw in one team, if you're an asshole, then people will not want to work with you, and you might get hurdles and walls in your career just because you might not be a nice person. And you can be a superstar in coding, you can be a fantastic, smart developer, but you have to make sure that people like working with you. I've got 55 more seconds. I'm so much on time. And before I leave, I'm going to leave you with a final thought, and I'm going to leave by jumping into this Ferrari. IQ is owning Ferrari. EQ is knowing how to drive it. Thank you.